Okay, so we've come to that time of the year where last year I made a video and said that I basically disagreed with the likes of Christmas and Halloween and that sort of thing because it was too commercialised. And I still stand by that, by the way. This is not something that is going to contradict myself, but this is kind of going to give you a little bit more of an insight into me and what I believe, and kind of just a perfect video for this time of year. Basically, I wanted to share my experiences with you, and I thought I would do it at this time of year because this is when people start to believe in ghosts and watch all these horror films and everything like that. And I personally have just got done watching Insidious, and it was a really good film. I can't wait for the second one to come out, which, by the way, I'm recording this in, it's 1st of September today, so it's not even August. But yeah, so let me begin with my experiences. My experiences begin some time ago. I mean, I've never been one to kind of fully believe in an afterlife, but I've never been convinced that there isn't a way of communicating with people who have died. You know, whether it's just something mentally or whether there is actual signs that, you know, people who have passed over can still communicate with us. But I do believe that even if you talk to these afterlife presences, then there is something that you can gain by it, whether it just be comfort or whether you find the answer that you've been waiting for, you know, for ages. The reason that I believe in all this sort of stuff is because there has been things that have happened to me and to family members over quite a couple of years. I think for me it first started a couple of years ago when my grandmother Nana, who is 70, and she first started telling us about, you know, she'd sit there on a Saturday night or, you know, a night during the week. She loves to watch these soap operas, so she'd be sat watching them or something on the television, and she would just get the smell of a pipe. You know, like the smoking pipe with the tobacco in it. Right, well, it turns out that my granddad, which is her dad, so it'd be my great-granddad. So my great-granddad used to smoke a pipe, and would have done so years ago in that exact room where she is. Now, she first started saying about these smells, and they would last anything from, you know, like 2 intakes of breath to possibly even a couple of minutes. And then the smell would literally vanish. Now, we always used to think, she's not really taking her medication. But then there's been certain things that have happened over the years which have kind of led me to believe that there is something more to it just being a sense of smell which can't really be explained. A couple of years after my nan first started telling us about these, my mother, who is kind of into fortune telling, so she has things like the tarot cards, the runes, which are the I call them pebbles. I don't actually know what they are, but you know, that kind of thing. And she was going through a pretty bad time anyway. Like, a relationship had just not gone the way she wanted it to, and you know, there was high bills coming in. It was looking like a pretty shit time. So there was me, my brother's boyfriend, and my mum, and we were all sat in, and we were sat in the living room at my mother's, which is kind of at the front of the house, and then you've got like the hallway and like this where the stairs are, and there's a little bathroom, and then you've got like the dining room and the kitchen like at the back of the house kind of thing, but you walk in on the side of the house. It's a bit of a weird setup. But we started doing this reading, and it was kind of the cards that were coming out as we were reading them. They were kind of accurate about the current situation that my mother was in, but for predicting the future, they were like really, really shit. Now, keep in mind, there is only 4 of us in the house at this time. The 4 of us are in the front of the house. All the doors were shut, all the windows were shut. There is no way that there could have been a breeze coming through that house. It was all double glazed. Like I said, everything was shut. There is no way it could have been a breeze. But all of a sudden, from the kitchen, from the living room where all 4 of us were, we heard this almighty kind of like a crash sound, and it was from inside the house. And this is like partway through a reading. I can't remember what card we were on, but I do know that one of the cards that came out was the devil, which is kind of freaky. But just thinking, shit, someone's trying to break into the house here. Like, you know, have they just broken one of like the patio doors or something like that? You know, have they thrown a brick through, or what the hell's going on? But I don't really want to sit in this room. So at first, me and my brother's boyfriend, we went out into the kitchen, obviously turning all the lights on, to find there is no broken doors, there is no broken windows, there is no sign of forced entry, there's no sign of anything. Until we looked in the kitchen. This is a sight that I will never actually forget seeing, and I will kind of explain to you what I saw and then where things actually were to show that this couldn't have been an accident. So we kind of went into the dining room, and not long after this incident, I think like a couple of years after this incident, there was a fire in the kitchen, and my mum had to, well, she kind of got the chance to redesign the kitchen, so she put a breakfast bar in, which now kind of separates a little bit from the dining room and the kitchen. But years ago, with the old style of the kitchen, it literally just used to be like, there was, if I can do this on my hand, there was like 3 walls to the kitchen, whereas now there's like this little breakfast bar bit here. That never used to exist. So you used to be able to literally walk into the dining room and then straight into the kitchen. There was no doorway or anything like that. So that's how it was. When we looked into the kitchen, there was a kind of like a deep baking tray, just sat right in the middle of the floor with a bottle of wine in the centre of it, like perfectly in the centre. What's even more weird is the fact that obviously this wine is a liquid. It had literally been a couple of seconds from when we heard the noise to when we actually went into the kitchen to see this. The bottle of wine, the wine in the bottle wasn't moving. It looked like it had been there for ages. So obviously we're all a bit like, well, what the hell is with that? So the first part of that is that the baking trays, because there was quite a few of them, they all used to be stored. So I've got this diagram. I should really have a pen and paper. This diagram of the kitchen. So the kitchen kind of ends here. Like you've got the cooker here, and then it ends here. Now there used to be like a little gap, and then there used to be like a chest of drawers. Well, in that gap, that's where all the baking trays were stored. Now, if one of the trays had been put away, I don't actually think any of the trays had been used during the day, by the way, but if one of the trays had been put away kind of wrong, and things do move, obviously, and it had fallen out, well, fair enough, but that isn't going to land in the middle of the kitchen, because this isn't a small kitchen. Second on that, this bottle of wine, I think, had been on the unit or something like that. There is no explanation for that. It's just, it was there. So of course we took it all apart and we thought, well, that's really weird. And then of course we got on to talking about, well, what if that is something trying to show you? It's someone trying to show you that they're here, they're watching you, they're here to support you, something like that. I wonder if they've left any more signs. So of course we got over the initial shock of something's happened here, and we all said, okay, let's have a drink. I went into the glass cupboard. I'd gone into the glass cupboard. That was it. I opened up the cupboard with the glasses and looked up, because it's in it was 2 shelves in one cupboard thing, and I looked up at the second shelf and there was a wine glass with 2 bits cut out of it. And the middle bit was really pointy. Just thought I'd point that out. It's weird because my mother's name is Margaret, so her first name begins with the letter M. This will have been the only name throughout her life that hasn't changed. Obviously her surname has changed. So, yeah, I don't really get that. But, obviously, trying to come up with some kind of logical explanation as to how this has happened. Well, obviously, it's a glass. It's at the front of the cupboard. It's probably just come out the dishwasher. So what did we do? We emptied the dishwasher, because obviously there's all stuff been put in it. We looked through the dishwasher. We took the filter out. We went right through the filter. Those 2 shards of glass were never found. They were just never found. So this wine glass has the perfect M cut out of it. So we're like, right, okay, that is something quite odd. We got over it and said, right, okay, let's just have a coffee in a mug that hasn't got bits, chiseled out of it. So we had a coffee, we sat down and we said, okay, let's open a pack of biscuits. You know how when you open a pack of biscuits, there's always crumbs? No crumbs in this packet, and yet the same shape cut out of it that was in that glass. Really odd, I know. And so probably some of you are going, it's a biscuit, you know, it could be missed out, but surely there would be crumbs in that packet. So that was kind of odd enough in the first place, but later on that night we all got to talking about, you know, certain things that you can do to like kind of allow these things to communicate with you if there is such a thing as an afterlife. There was a digital camera in my mum's, not really the best kind of quality compared to modern day cameras and that sort of thing, but yeah, so she went and got the camera, and I always remember doing this. I sat down in the kind of like with my back against one of the units, but I was kind of like sat down in the middle of the kitchen facing into the dining room, and I was just taking random photos just like all the way around the room. My brother and his boyfriend, they'd obviously had a bit to drink, so they started trying to do things like press-ups. I can't remember why they were trying to do press-ups, but they were. And my brother's boyfriend was, I think in the photograph, he's got his arms out, and I think he's like just going down into a press-up, and then. Yeah, so he'd gone down into this press-up, and I'd found an image, or took a photograph, and obviously, you know, on a digital camera, the photos come up near enough, like, straight away, to show you what you've just taken a photo of, so you can go like, oh, they're still there, and everything like that. Well, it did it, and I literally said, okay, something's trying to show itself here. So everyone came round, and we, like, had a look at what was on the screen. We eventually, I don't even think it was on that night. I think we did it on the camera. We zoomed in on this like orb that had appeared on the side of his head, and this is like quite a big orb. Like, he didn't have the smallest head. I'm so sorry if he's watching, but he doesn't. And this is quite a big orb. So we zoomed into it, and you could sort of make out the characteristics a little bit of like a bit of a face, and that was really, really weird. Even more weird when we uploaded it to a computer, because obviously a computer's got a bigger screen. So we zoomed into it, and you can crystal clearly make this face out, and it is the most freakiest thing I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Still no explanation about it. Okay, so some of you are going to be watching that and you'll be like, well, that's a couple of years ago, you know, like, kind of what's this got to do with you? Well, since that incident, quite a few years ago, I have moved out into my own place, and I guess you kind of think, well, that's it, surely. Only this is where it got quite interesting for me.